In yoga, an act of withdrawal of external consciousness or the act of dissociation of consciousness from the outside objects is called pratyahara. And pratyahara is a means to relaxation in the whole system. Your tensions are physical, mental, and at the same time they can be emotional too. They are muscular, mental, emotional. And faulty systems in the endocrine system can cause tensions. Not necessarily the physiological problems of your society and family, not necessarily the economic problems, not necessarily the emotional maladjustments in your family. There can be nervous disorders, there can be problems in your body due to a faulty endocrine system. And those faulty endocrine secretions are caused by faulty living, faulty breathing, faulty eating habits, and so on. In the scheme of yoga, therefore, asanas or yoga postures and pranayamas or breathing exercise, they come first in order to get rid of your muscular physical tensions, to eliminate the toxins from your body, and at the same time neutralize the faulty secretions that take place in your body. In Patanjali's Raj Yoga, there is a state called as Pratyahara, when the mind and mental awareness are dissociated from the sensory channels. The perfection of Pratyahara leads to concentration and then to meditation. Meditation begins with Pratyahara, which translates as to retreat or to return to. Pratyahara includes the methods to induce a state of mind in which awareness is withdrawn from the external world. One interacts with the external world through the senses of smell, taste, sight, touch, and sound. Using specific pratyahara practices, these senses are systematically withdrawn from external stimuli and turned inwards. Initially, during the practice of pratyahara, the mind is easily distracted, as in and is in a dense state. However, during your regular practice sessions, tensions are gradually released from the mind and pran begins to withdraw from the external sensations. Over time, the awareness and the pran becomes internalized and the state of pratyahara is achieved. Pratyahara is basically the fifth stage of Raj Yoga and first in the esoteric yoga, when the senses do not carry the impulses to the brain. That is Pratyahara. When the five indriyas are benumbed, are paralyzed, invalidated, the mind does not receive the necessary stimulus from outside. That is Pratyahara. That means the mind is isolated. This is the first step in esoteric yoga and fifth in the Raj Yoga. If you are able to isolate your mind from the sense impressions, believe that you have started yoga. Withdrawal of senses is pratyahara. What actually is withdrawal of senses? There are five senses we all know. They exp- the five senses they experience five sense objects. How is it possible to withdraw senses of seeing, hearing, smell, tasting, and touch? First, you close your eyes and become aware of remaining sense experiences around you, however disturbing they may be. For example, there may be a sound in the next room or even in the same room with you. You must try to analyze the sound, understand it, and grasp the significance of it. You must separate the sense from the sense experience and only become aware of the experience of sound vibration. To illustrate this further, I would say imagine that a bell is ringing. First, you consider the ear, second, the bell, and third, the sound of the bell. You must be aware of the sound, which is the sense experience. The bell, the sense object, belongs to the outer world. By realizing it, you accomplish the first step of sense withdrawal. It is very important that you realize that it is not an absent minded comprehension, but rather a present minded awareness of the objective reality which you are trying to grasp. You may take one experience and analyze it fully, or you may take many, one right after the other. But sooner or later, you must come to the point where you are able to analyze and understand that perception. Then the experience alone remains devoid of the object, and later it is devoid of the subject as well. The problem of how to isolate the mind comes because there is an unholy alliance between the mind and the senses. For incarnations, for many incarnations, the mind and the senses have lived together. When you isolate the mind from the senses, it becomes restless. Therefore, there are certain yogic practices for the isolation of the mind. Withdrawal of consciousness. Understand it like this: when the consciousness manifests itself through the body, it superimposes upon itself the attributes of the body, mind, and the intellect. Then it begins to feel the pain, pleasure, heat, cold, hunger, thirst, which in essence belong only to your body and mind. Yoga prescribes a series of practices through which the consciousness detaches itself from the influence of body and mind and realizes its inherent bliss and unconditioned nature. The world of objects and events reaches us through the doors of perception, consisting of your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. Just as the tortoise, it withdraws its limbs at the will. Similarly, through yogic practices, mind and senses are to be withdrawn from the respective objects. When the door of perception are all closed, your mind will communicate with the consciousness within you. But the senses are so turbulent and mischievous that they do not allow us to commune with the consciousness inside. They are very powerful and drag the mind off the track, making it impossible to concentrate on the object. The Bhagavad Gita very aptly describe it as follows: just as a powerful wind tosses a small boat in various directions and prevents it from reaching its destination, in the same way, turbulent senses mislead the mind and do not allow it to get a glimpse of your divine self. For an example, imagine if you are sitting in a room and you want to concentrate on the candle flame, but there are the windows open through which the wind is coming. Now, that incoming wind, that turbulence of the wind, will disturb the steady flame. Similar is the perception of the external world. In order to have the steadiness in the flame, you need to close the window. In order to release your consciousness, you need to close your senses. In yoga, the emphasis is always given to the control of body, prana, senses, and mind. Through Hatha Yoga, the body is controlled. Through Pranayama, the vital airs are controlled. Through Jap Yoga and Tratak, the consciousness is withdrawn from the external world, and this state is known as Pratyahara.